Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
So that is the current topic. So just again, big context. We're going through the stages of the path to liberation, all the very specific steps on the path. And we're breaking down the various meditations, the realizations one would have, and where we are on a path. And we're exploring the guidance on a particular meditation. Typically, in this process, one would get and receive these teachings to go meditate on, like a rare and precious human birth. And they go in and meditate for a while. It could be months. And then they would have some real sense of what that taste is, how rare and precious. And they feel like, okay, I have some real sense of this. They come back, talk to the teacher. And the teacher would say, go meditate a little more. Or maybe, okay, we'll go to the next topic. And then we'd go away and you'd do on the next topic. And what happens is that we build this foundation. And then we move through the three wisdoms: hearing the teaching, analyzing the teaching, meditating on the teaching. And then it becomes a realization. We move from intellectual knowledge to a real realization. And so as we're moving through this, we've got the rare and precious human birth, favorable Dharma practice. Everything is now available for us for complete awakening. Conditions have ripened right here in this life. And then the next topic, death. Death is certain, time of death uncertain. Did you have a question there?
People are just saying that there's a buzzing sound for many people and the pictures pixelated, so I just kind of paused and
I was on a roll, man.
so you're always on a roll. I can never.
Picture's better, actually. It's still just a little
Is
buzzy.
any better sound there?
Yeah.
Well, the
think so.
fuzzy I can't do much about. Sound. Sound
You're
is,
just saying that's good, that changed.
yeah, okay. So the audio setting I changed. But fuzzy, that's a whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Death,
Oh, right.
something? Yeah.
Something like that. So we've got this rare and precious human birth, all the conditions ripen, and then the next point is, well, we don't have it forever. It's impermanent. These conditions have ripened just so in this way, but the three main points about death is, death is certain, time of death is certain, at the time of death. In this case, what will really matter? And last week we covered the point of the benefits of meditating and reflecting on death. And so, one of the most obvious is that we won't regret our life. We didn't waste anything. Like, I know it's coming. It's just the way it is, right? And if I don't take that into consideration, how many things will I miss? How much of life will I have not shown up for? How many things do I put off until tomorrow? And, it's pretty common in, well, just I'll talk about the Tibetan culture I lived in and around with the monastery in South India. You see all the old Tibetans, they got their prayer beads and they're doing circling, they're praying the heck out of their lives, because, getting a little close to death, I'm gonna, spiritual. And you just see that they know, they don't want to waste a moment. Don't always see it with the younger people, but you do see it with them. And you start going, okay, there's a reality that every day that we're alive, we're one day closer to our death. It's just the nature of things. Nothing to be neurotic about, nervous about. It's just the way things are. Sticking my head in the sand, is that going to help? Or maybe if I take some time to really reflect on this, I will savor this day. I will show up for this day. I will maybe call someone I haven't called in a while. I will let my loved ones know they're loved. And then we may be free to live life much more fully. And our priorities will be in order. I mean, that I think is one of the biggest benefits is we will spend a lot of time agonizing, stress, worry, fear, struggle, and busyness of life. And will any of that really matter? And we forget what really matters, you know. We get that when there's a tragedy. Oh, here's what really matters. You know, we just had those fires in LA. People lived, you know, their houses are gone. Well, here's what really matters. We're alive, you know, this thing. What can we do? We have these moments in life where we get clarity, and then, you know, it moves on. So the idea here is to, what would it be like to always have that clarity? Like, I don't know if I'll see all you tomorrow. Like, I want to know I care about you. It's meaningful, all of you online as well. And I want my last interaction to be a healthy and meaningful one. You know, so the priorities, you know, just pop up. What's really important? You know, so many times somebody will be talking to us and, you know, we got stuff to do. I got no time to talk, you know, hurry up, you know, and you gotta go. So we don't even listen. And what if that's your last encounter with this person? Yeah, what's so important? We have a lot of urgency sometimes, you know, there's so much to do in a day. And we don't be present for what we're actually doing. So really this idea of clarifying what's really important, what's meaningful. And so if it's my last day today, it's okay. I didn't waste it. I showed up for it. Wasn't perfect, but you know, I showed up. So that's, you know, this incredibly important benefit. And then if you add that to, okay, all the conditions have ripened for me to have complete awakening, freedom from all afflictions, and it'd be a benefit also to people. Well, it's kind of a valuable thing. And am I doing anything to nurture that? Or am I, you know, planning my next Netflix binge? Which isn't. And not to say those are terrible things, it's just, you know, thinking about what we're filling our life with when we have the opportunity to know ourselves, be free of delusion, mental affliction, suffering, to know contentment and well-being, to be of help to others. So there's this real opportunity to go, okay, all these things have come together. And is my life full of busyness, stress, worry, and fear? And then I engage in Dharma, be okay. So I can go out and engage in stress, worry, and fear, and busyness. And then, you know, so this becomes something that treats a symptom. Or what if Dharma is my life? And then all my worldly activities become much easier to engage in. And I'm not just doing a little bit of Dharma to get me through a stressful day. I'm actually engaging in Dharma that gives me an opportunity to support the life I want to live, the work I do, the relationships I have. And so real clarity there. So last week we talked about the traditional reflections on the benefits. We didn't go over what's the way they put it? I'll use exactly that word. Okay, so we have the 6 benefits being aware of death. And then I thought they had the downside, but I was going to skip it anyway. So, because, we might die. So I really want to get to the 9-point meditation on death and see if we can get through the first couple here. And so very traditional 9-point meditation on death. This meditation on death consists of 3 main roots, 9 reasons or points, 3 for each root. In other words, there's 3 and then there's 3 of each one. The 3 roots are the inevitability of death. So death is certain. Number 2, the uncertainty of time of death. So death is certain, time of death uncertain. And 3, only Dharma helps at the time of death. The 3 reasons for each root will be explained. And so remember, when we think about only Dharma helps at the time of death, we'll unpack that more. But remember, Dharma is not Buddhist teaching. I mean, Buddhist teaching is Dharma, but Dharma is much more than that. Dharma is that which protects us from suffering. Dharma is truth. Dharma is realization. There's Christian Dharma. There's Hindu Dharma. There's human Dharma. Dharma is truth. It's the nature of things. Buddha Dharma is Buddhist teachings to highlight the truth. So we have Buddha Dharma, but Dharma is much more encompassing, and at its root is eliminating suffering. Dharma is that which protects us from suffering. It is, and all suffering being from misperception, misunderstanding. So wisdom, understanding, clarity. And, at the time of death, that'll be helpful. Very helpful. So let's go ahead and get to the first root, the inevitability of death. And so typically in the meditation, when we go through these points in a meditation, those of you may be newer, haven't been to some of the other sessions, what we're doing is we're going to do the analytical part as a discussion, and then invite you during the week to both either engage in the meditation or bring it to mind during the day as a reflection. Just keep reminding yourself. So death is inevitable. And first subpoint, everyone has to die. Bring to mind people from the past, powerful leaders like kings, queens, presidents, generals, talented artists, musicians, brilliant scientists, philosophers, spiritual leaders like Buddha, Jesus. No matter how powerful, intelligent, or holy these people were, they all had to die. Can you think of anyone who lived on this earth but did not have to die? And we're just talking about the physical death, the body. And so it sounds obvious, right? Well, yeah, it's obvious. And yet, we keep thinking people live a little longer. Someone's going to live. Average lifespan's this. I think I've got another 20 plus years, maybe. What am I? 62. Easy 20. But the idea is, well, wait a minute. Every day I'm alive, I'm closer to my death. Yeah, that's kind of sobering. And then we start reflecting on people we know who passed. And so it's really getting familiar with this fragility of life. That no matter how decorated our lives are with things or achievements, this body's going to have an expiration date. Recall people that you've known in your life who have already died and reflect that one day you will also die. And so, usually I spend a little time morning thinking about people. And it's funny, I have one person come up all the time, right away. Really good friend, like a family member. This sweet guy, a good human being, and I miss him, I liked it a lot. And, and then I go through some other people. And so it's just, really bringing to mind beyond the intellectual knowledge that, yeah, of course we'll die, but start reflecting on people that we know that aren't with us anymore, what that's like. Is there an empty spot there? And just recognize, some are young, some are older, parents, friends, family. And then we really get a sense, a feel. And, it might get a little heavy sometimes. But what it does is remind us that this is impermanent. And the idea is motivation. Just taking a little time to think of these people aren't with us anymore. And I usually shift a little bit of joy around the life that I had with them, what they brought to my life, and let that kind of fill my heart. I find that really helpful. I have some pictures of my brother Mark, who died just a few years ago, and put together a montage. We did stuff, and you see that. When I look at it, I smile, man. He was a character, and he's always clowning, and he really wanted to help people. Well, I don't feel heavy when I look at it. It's really nice. So, really important to remember that these people in our lives, in one way, they don't die at all. They live through us. Some of the things, the experiences we have as a result of them. My mom lives through me in a lot of ways. The words I use and the things that I said, and obviously she's in my genes and my blood and all of that. She's in me, and her wisdom and so much of who I am as a human being. My mom lives through me, and she used to live through me through some recipes. But I went vegetarian, so I don't have that much of her in me there. That's some really good ones. I used to call her up, "Hey, Mom, how do we do this?" And so as soon as we bring these people to mind, they're alive, in that sense. We don't. His body comes and goes, but wow, the words and the impact. I mean, everything about us is the result of others that we've met that have helped create our thoughts, our conditioning, who we are. And so they don't die in that way, that energy of being. And that's really important to remember. I remember one of the most shocking points probably 1985, maybe. Yeah, probably. I was just changing my life. Some of you know, addiction and all those things and all that life that I had survived. And I finally was getting sober and clean, learning how to live. And there was this one man at these meetings, and he was, he'd always make you smile. I had a joke, something. And, I thought, man, this guy, you just like to be around him. And matter of fact, the last time I saw him alive, he was leaving the meeting, and he just had an old joke and had me laugh, and he exited. I can picture him leaving the side door in this little school in Sierra Madre, California. A few days later, he was dead. He was actually dying of cancer, but you'd never know it, by the way. He showed up. And, he was such a hopeful person for me. I went to the viewing, and I was there with his body. And I was a wreck, I was just grief, and sadness. I just didn't understand, and And I remember just looking at his body and, thinking, I don't ever want to do a viewing again. And this is morbid stuff, man. And I was alone with him. And but I remember very clearly going, if I can have 1/10 of what you brought to the world, if just a 10th of the joy and the humor that you bring, that I can have that to bring to others, I want to make that commitment. And clearly I failed. But I was inspired. And in that way, I honestly think, every time I think of him, he's alive, right? His words, his impact, his impressions. So people do live through it. So as we reflect on people who die, I think it's to remember how they live through you, how they impact you, what they've done for others, what their legacy is. And it really brings a balance to the opportunity rather than just an ache in the heart. Okay. Go back. Finally got rid of the text and then I need to bring it back up. So death is certain. We kind of look at it. We notice that people we know have died, and then think of people are still alive. And start recognizing that they are going to die. And why doesn't that make you want to give them a call? Is it Joseph Levine? Is that his name? Stephen Levine. Yeah, he has that whole 1 year to die or something. Yeah. And if you knew you were gonna die tomorrow, who would you call? And why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? It's that kind of thing. All right, let's know that I may not see you tomorrow, so let's make sure we use our time well. And so at present, there are more than 8 billion people in the world, but in 100 years, most of them will have died, except for a few who are now infants. You yourself have died. Imagine the world going on without you and most of its current inhabitants. And so this is just really reflecting on impermanence. And so we don't want to take for granted the moments. We want to avoid things like, I got time to kill, or I wish this day was over. And instead thinking, I'm glad we have this day. And I want to use it. So that's this first reflection. And when we, there's another quote, and I can't pick up his name. I feel like he's African. But it was like, if you treated everyone you met as though they may be dead tomorrow, that will radically change your life. And that's a great practice. Great practice. Talk about how we engage with others then. All right, Roxanne, I did see your hand.
Hi. So I just want to mention that the Stephen Levine book is A Year to Live.
A year to live, not a year to die.
Right. And how to live this year as if it were your last. It's really,
That's what I was thinking of, how to live this year. Yeah.
And there are a bunch of meditations in there. And then he's got another one called Who Dies? And it's an investigation of conscious living and conscious dying. So both of these books have some great meditations in there. And Stephen has died since they were written. His wife is still alive, living in New Mexico. But anyway, they're great books, and it's it's a challenge to go through the Year to Live book and do all the journaling and stuff you're supposed to do and make it through the end of the year. But I've been doing it for 3 years. So it's more than a year to live. Anyway.
Apparently it's 3 years.
Yeah, 3
Maybe
years.
there's an updated version.
Yeah, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
All right, thanks for bringing that up and correcting it and making some clarity around the opportunity. All right. So we got this understanding, okay, death's inevitable. And again, the physical body. And then your lifespan is decreasing continuously. And the amount of time that you have for spiritual practice is very small. So again, this is all on the inevitability of death. I kind of skipped through that second point just because, yeah, every day it's decreasing, right? Every day we're alive, we're closer to our death. And at some point, we want to get to the perky conversation. But then here's the key, right? The amount of time we have for spiritual practice is small. Since you're continuously traveling towards death, what are you doing to prepare for it? The best preparation for death is spiritual practice. Practicing Dharma during our life, cultivating mindfulness, living ethically, meditating on compassion, and so on, will enable us to keep our mind positive and peaceful at the time of death, rather than confused and fearful. And it will ensure a fortunate rebirth. Only our mind and the imprints of our actions will continue after death. It's hard to find anything other than spiritual practice that can truly benefit the mind at that point. But how much of your time do you devote to spiritual practice? Working to decrease disturbing emotions such as anger and attachment, and developing positive aspects of the mind, such as kindness and wisdom. And so therein lies the nudge, right? How much time are we spending in a day recognizing our connection with others, our interdependence? How much time during the day are we spending cultivating compassion, loving kindness, versus attachment and fear and resentment or judgments that are unhealthy? Or just, chasing the 8 worldly concerns. That was one of the ones, right? 8 worldly concerns: gain, loss, pain, pleasure, good reputation instead of bad reputation, praise over criticism. So much of our life gets dominated by these things. And where's our spiritual practice? And we have a limited time. So we have, again, this is really hard to get. But if we ever get this, then right now in the palm of your hand are the directions to complete liberation. Everything's there. That's that first point. There's nothing in the way to achieve liberation. All the directions are here. The conditions have ripened. You've earned it. It's in the palm of your hand. And I'm going to go out and do this other thing. All right. It's right here. I'm going to go do this other thing. And that's the deal. Like right here, it's all available. And what happens is we may intellectually know it. We may even have a taste of it. May have little experiences. But our conditioning is so deep that it's really hard to make that a priority. Right? There's so many other things I know that can provide me instant relief. distraction, and the mind, caught up in things. So unraveling that takes time and effort. And so that's where this comes back into, okay, you have this. I mean, very few humans will ever have this opportunity you have. Why not make it a priority? And then we might leave this room tonight or online, wherever you're at, and go, I'm going to make this right course. Why wouldn't I? Until 10 o'clock tonight, we're doing something else. And the conditioning is just so, and so the analogy I use all the time is this marble in a well-worn groove, right? It's our conditioning, our habits. And we push the marble out and it falls back, but we just need to keep pushing it out every day, sometimes multiple times. And yeah, it falls back, no big deal. That's the way it is. It's just, but I keep pushing it out. And at some point, it starts creating a new groove. And this becomes more important than many other things. The rewards of it kick in. The feeling of authenticity and joy and freedom and resiliency starts showing up. And you're like, well, it's a lot better than all that fear, worry, and concern stuff. And then that new groove starts getting cut. So these meditations here are not designed that we all have a nice talk and then you're not going to waste any more of your life. And it's like, okay, let's get a little drop of water here and let's grow this. Let's bring our mind back a little more often. And so that's why, like, all week, if we're taking some time to reflect on impermanence, on death, and opportunity that we have, and then noticing that how many things do I put before practicing my spiritual life? And how's this in a corner? Wednesday nights or Sundays or whatever we do, or this little time in the morning. And how much is it? I do a nice morning practice, and that's the real fascinating thing. I've noticed through my journey. I'm very spiritual in the morning. Then you go out and have 16 hours of chaos. And so I got, an hour of this, 16 hours of that. And then, maybe a little practice in the evening. And somehow I think that's going to change my life. It's, the analogy I used to use is, and we see it with retreats a lot. I think a lot of people can relate to. You go to a retreat, you spend some time, you're in peace, cell phone's not on, got some meditations in, it's like, ooh, feeling radiant, clear. It's so amazing. And it's like getting purified and cleansed. And then we leave the retreat and go jump in a mud puddle. Just like all the old habits. And then we're all, filthy again. And we're like, man, I need another retreat. And, because I want to feel like that again. And so it's this constant purification, clarity, and then jumping in the mud or getting all dirty. And go, okay, I need to go do that again. And so, these specific practices, and if we do the 4 thoughts, and we actually get through these: rare and precious human rebirth, death and impermanence, karma, and the condition of samsara. If we have it's like a rocket ship. It's like everything in your life. There's not, you wake up, I didn't die last night. My God, I have this rare and precious life. Ooh, I am not going to waste this. What a gift this is. I'm wiggling my toes. We're getting out of bed. We're going to have another day to step into this path of awakening. Like that sense. Other analogy, it's like sitting on a hot coal. Like you move, right? You jump, you move, you don't, and it's always there. I'm not going to waste any moment of my life imprisoning myself. I'm just going to stop decorating samsara. I'm going to start liberating myself. And so that's what happens when all four come together. And but all that takes time. So we do not beat ourselves up for needing to take a little diversion, have a little time, try to force this stuff. Then we'll resist it more. Then we'll feel bad about not doing it. Then I'm in this whole cycle of actually undermining my own practice. It's much more of, let's just keep watering this. And Tenzin Palmo has the best analogy of that, where the analogy of when you're a little kid, you have your little teddy bear, and you take it everywhere, and teddy's real important. But as you get older, you leave teddy bear at home a little more often. And at some point, we can leave him home a lot. And her analogy is, you didn't rip Teddy out of your hands and stick him at home. I mean, it's tragic. Other things just became more interesting. And that's what happens, is as we reflect on these, other things become more important gradually, and rewards we start experiencing. And so it's not forceful. It's much more of a seeing the benefit, experiencing the benefit, knowing what that's like. And over time, it's like becomes our nature. And then things that used to be really exciting to us are just not that exciting anymore. This is more important, And I mean, I clearly remember last time I actually officially rock climbed on my own. It's like I got to the top and it was like, I think I'm done. And it was good. It was fun. These are nice people. Climbed. It's a good session. But I don't think it's how I want to use my life anymore. I came home from that and I sold my gear. Kept going to the Dharma Center. Didn't feel bad. Had a good time. Loved doing it. But I was just done. There's no pain in it. Nothing. Cool, done it. I've got some other things to do that are more important now. Yeah. So it's like that. So let's take a look a little further here. So how much time, right? So we start looking at recognizing the time. And then ultimately the conclusion that one would have is that we'd understand the importance of Dharma practice, that it should be one of your main priorities in life. And we generate the thought, I must practice Dharma in order to prepare for death and the next life, then focus on this single pointedly for several minutes. And, that's, many of us may not believe in a next life. So, you sit there and go, you kind of lose that. Because if you believe in a next life, like, man, I better be taking care of business, because what I'm doing now is creating my future, like, you get it. Even if you're Christian, I'd sure like to hang out in heaven, like that'd be a good spot for anyone to meet. Was it St. Peter, right, at the gate? Yeah. And, it's like you're doing things knowing that this will end, and that's where I want to be. And in sort of rebirth, understanding then that this body dies, but your consciousness just continues moment to moment. And so in that sense, the body dies, the mind doesn't. The mind continues, and the mind sees itself a little differently, starts seeing without a body, and then ultimately it'll start seeing itself in another body at some point, and it'll just keep experiencing. So that's from a sort of the karma related thing. So then it becomes really important, if you start noticing your own life right here, right now, how you're living today has a lot to do with your habits and conditioning, how you've been living your life. Kind of creates your habits and your tendencies now. And so what we're doing now would continue, and do we want to continue with good rebirth and opportunities to be free. Or, am I going to put some chains on myself? And so that's helpful. But if you don't believe in that, or you're unknown of that, and you just don't know, which I think is perfectly reasonable, what's going to matter at the time of death is still how you lived your life. Do you feel good about how you lived your life? Or do you have regrets? Did you show up in ways that are meaningful? So preparing for death, whether you believe there's something beyond it or not, it's the same thing. If today's my last day, what will matter at the end of my life for me personally? And, am I taking care of the things that will be important if this is my last day, whether there's a next one or not? Same priorities come up. And we will miss a lot of opportunity if we don't recognize we may not be here tomorrow. Right? So you should get your tickets to Disneyland right now. Not wait. Kind of Mickey Mouse operation you'll be running if you don't go there. Yeah, we put off so much, including paying attention to our partners, people in our lives, family, giving that person that little attention they needed when you would need to do something else. Yeah, those things we'll feel pretty good about. Time-wise. I want to get into this next point before I die. The uncertainty of the time of death. So death is certain, we reflect on that, and time of death uncertain. We might accept the inevitability of death, but think we don't need to be concerned about it now because it won't happen soon. This is unrealistic. We have no way of knowing when we'll die. It could happen anytime this year, this month, even today. Let's look at some reasons for this. The human lifespan is uncertain. We're not guaranteed a certain number of years to live. Some people live in their 80s or 90s, but some died long before that, even in their 20s or 30s or as children. Bring to mind examples of people you know or have heard of who died at different ages, even before they reached your current age, and recognize that it would be foolish to think thoughts like, or such as, I won't die soon. Only old people die, or not old. Understand that your present age has nothing to do with your remaining lifespan because death can happen at any age. So I may be undermining some of the next points here, but this is where I spend most of my time, is odd deaths, premature deaths, deaths that happen a lot that were unexpected. My friend that I think of, he died pretty young. And yeah, I used to collect odd deaths, I used to read about them in the paper, like an airplane going into a living room, you're just watching TV, things like that. There's a person walking on a beach with some headphones on and a plane actually. Yeah, they're just walking on a beach, and things like that. They're just really odd because it would rattle me a little bit, like you'd think you're pretty good just walking on a beach by yourself, right? Or sitting in your house in the living room. And so I used to collect those. But now I don't really need to because I have first a lot of them, but also just the normal stuff, and you don't mind, mention Laura, your relative, just, died in her sleep in bed with 2 kids, she has 2 kids, and is it an aneurysm?
No, well, it was a pulmonary embolism.
Pulmonary embolism, yeah. And, in bed that night, and that was just a couple nights ago, right? Has 2 kids. We can look at our own lives and start to know people and know that, some died young, some quickly, some slowly. So just bringing that to mind. And which reminds me of I used to meditate on, I was given this visualization of putting a candle in the windowsill at night, outside. And it might be lit tomorrow, it might not, the wind blowing it. And that would be the frailty of my life. And it was very, very helpful. Like, it'd be lit, maybe not lit, depends whether it's windy, not windy, I don't know. And so just understanding, I can go, and everybody who's been here for any length of time know I drink out of a thermos that my brother-in-law gave me before he died. And he died just walking in the park with my sister. Had a heart attack and died right there, that day. And I drink from that thermos every morning. Well, every morning that I'm at home. I don't take it with me. Yeah. So, that's a good reminder. And the point of it is that we get to savor that you have a life right now, that you have an opportunity. And then what's the downfall? We can beat ourselves up for wasting a day. Don't do that. That's how you waste a day, is you beat yourself up for wasting a day. When we waste a day, what we recognize is just the conditioning that we have to work on. That's all. It's like, this samsara stuff's real. I know all this good stuff I could be doing, and there's no way I'm doing that because I'm getting some brownies and I'm going to go chill out and do this thing, and know that that's the conditioning that we're working on. And it just shows you what we're up against and the work to be done. And so it's actually can be transformed into wisdom instead of shame or guilt. And a self-critical attitude is not a good use of our time. Just not a good use of our time, ever. Accountability is, but not that self-criticism. Just not. All right, is that Kurt? Looks like you're leaning in, Kurt.
No, Judy had her hand up. I was just raising my hand because Judy can't find her hand raised button.
Yeah, I don't know where it is, so I've just been.
Well, Kurt has it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where it is, but I'll figure that out eventually.
Yeah, we'll have Kurt give it back to you when he.
Yeah. Well, this subject is just so right on. My oldest brother, who is 85, has been in a coma for 3 days. And he's not on life support or anything, but he's 13 hours away. And I am going, I don't know if I should jump in the car and just drive 13 hours, but he's in a coma, and he could die this minute, or he could die a week from now. We don't know, and so I've got this turmoil going on if I should go there, but he's not going to be able to talk or anything. And I'm sure the family is suffering, heavily. And and I have this suffering too, I'm waiting for this phone call, and it's crazy. It's just driving me kind of crazy. So I thought I'd mention it since this is the subject that we're on tonight, and it's pretty pertinent for me. And most people would say, well, we just need to, I don't know if most people would say this, but maybe we should just pull the plug. But this is, they just don't want to do that. I don't know. So I don't know if he's suffering or if where he's at, they say they're giving him pain pills, so he's not in pain. But who knows? You don't know how much pain someone has when they're in a coma. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you all. And it's just something that is the ups and downs of life. And this is a downer. But, like you say, everyone dies. It's his time, I guess. I don't know. If he does come back, who knows what kind of he fell down on his head, or his head hit concrete, and so he fell asleep, and hasn't come out of that coma. So, yeah, thank you all.
Sorry to hear that. And, and these are the good times to say then, what would you feel good about doing? When you think about going or not going, is, what would you feel good about? And that's the thing, what do we do? So,
Well, I don't feel good about a 13-hour drive that doesn't, and
Mhm.
and and that's being selfish, I guess, And then my family, my boys, they'd have to take off work to go to this funeral, and it's they have jobs, they have to be responsible, but I was thinking about I could say that we'll come out there Memorial Day weekend, and that's when we'll celebrate my brother's life and get together with a family reunion, whoever could make it, and that'll be happier times. But I don't know if I'm trying to push something here or what, but we'll see what unfolds.
The key, I guess, is whatever, you do, you want to make peace with it with you.
Mhm.
So that there's not regret later. Yeah. So just make peace with whatever it is that you come up with, whether it's the Memorial Day or whatever you choose. It's really valuable to know that it feels good in your heart. That it's a good decision. Then there's some peace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Family reunion and happier times is what I'd rather have, than a family reunion when someone died. Everybody's so sad, I'm trying to get rid of sadness. So, anyway,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. And yeah, later just message me his name. I'll include him in our prayers. So that I find it's valuable. So let's take a look at this uncertainty of time, of death, not our time here. So, recognizing that time of death is certain, so death certain, time of death uncertain. And there are many causes of death. People die in various ways. Some die in natural disasters, such as earthquakes or floods. Others die due to human activity, such as war, murder. Yeah, anyway, so it's just bringing up all of these ideas. And then they put, ironically, even things that normally support life can become the cause of death. We need food to stay alive, but people sometimes die as a result of eating, choking on their food, or getting food poisoning. Medicine normally prolongs life, but people can die after taking the wrong medicine or the wrong dose. Yeah. This is where it really digs in, and you just get some like, wow, I don't want to meditate on this anymore. Yeah, where's the candy bar, man? And so the thing that we as we bring up these types of things is to remember that the point with things that can bring us health can also bring us death. Is just knowing that this day comes only once, and we just don't know how many we have. And not to have a false sense of security that, well, I exercise, I eat right, healthy, pretty sure I got another 20 plus years. Because none of that really matters in this sense. And so it's not to fool yourself, because a lot of people will spend, and the way I relate to what was just being shared, doing all the super healthy thing to prolong your life only to, get hit by a car, right? Or do all these healthy things to prolong your life and you get cancer and, like, in other words, still do the healthy things, but don't bank on it giving you the 20 plus years, right? But in case it is available, you'd like to be mobile and able to engage in it. And so, we create our future by how we live today. And part of living today is being healthy, being physically well, eating right, doing these things are important. Really important, as a matter of fact, for our cognitive mental states, and especially at time of death. So having, good, healthy, am I taking care of this rare and precious life that I have so I can use it while I have it, but not bank on that it'll still be here in so many years. And then there's always the guy who says, well, George Burns smoked cigars and drank whiskey and he's 100 and whatever when he died. Yeah, that's one guy. So the time of death being uncertain, bringing to mind, for me, I just simply look at the people I know. And some quickly, some slowly, some young, some old. And I've told many times the stories of a few people I've met. And, last time I saw him alive, I hugged him, told him I loved him. And it's one guy who's dead 2 days later. And, I'm glad that's what I did. Another guy, similar thing. I hugged him, loved him. Nobody's going to want to hug me anymore. I understand this. And yeah, we read about him in the paper, got hit by a car and died. But that's valuable to me, not just to remember that I may go, people may go. What was the last way I interacted with them? Yeah, that's something. And so I spent a bit of time right there. And I find that very helpful. And let's just get to this final little sub point. We'll deal with that for the next session. But our body and life are very fragile. We may feel strong, full of energy. Okay, so yeah, it's going to just dive back into not counting on just the health of your body. And yeah, they even put in the plane crash or a tiger end your life. Yeah, good stuff in India and all that. Viruses. We went through a pandemic. Nobody saw that coming, right? So the invitation then this week is to, just each morning bring some of these reflections of death is certain, time of death uncertain, people have passed, how they contributed to your life. And where I want to focus, and I encourage you to, is the relationships that we have and how we can make them meaningful and how the past ones have been meaningful. And therein lies an inspiration for me instead of a morbid thought. Yeah. I do have these relationships today. And those past ones, I get to honor by who I am today. And the new ones, want to make sure that they're healthy and well. And I don't want to take it for granted. But most of all, I want to prioritize. How do I want to live my life today? It's my last day. What's really important? So that's the invitation this week. Hopefully I was a little peppier at the end. And because the point is to inspire us and really celebrate. And I'm trying to get back in the habit of this, but I used to, when the alarm went off in the morning, I would wiggle my toes and go, I'm alive, man. Like, how amazing. I didn't die. Oh, wiggle my toes. Like, good. And I would just have this joy. Now it's like 4 freaking in the morning, man, the alarm's off. Oh my God. I need to drag my butt out of bed and hopefully not, I can't hit those Laura's next to me. That will go badly. I need to make it to the coffee pot, you know. So lately I'm wiggling my toes again, and getting back. It's funny how you can fall out of a habit, life stuff. And so I've been wiggling my toes again. It's just a little trigger against me, Yeah, didn't die. Got a new day. And that, what a better way to get out of bed. And you got one more shot at this. So hopefully, you can take a little time in the morning and celebrate that you do have a life before you think about not having one. And just how gift it is. And see what kind of inspires you during the day and remembering, what if we treated everyone we meet as though they might be dead tomorrow? How does that change your interaction? I think that's a really healthy practice. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, curiosities, corrections?
This is Roxana. I just wanted to say to Judy, it occurred to me that people often are able to hear when they're in a coma. So maybe if you're not able to make that journey, you could call the hospital where he is and have someone hold the phone to his ear and talk to him, tell him what you want to say. And that way you could have a connection before he dies. And you could say whatever you want to say to help him on his transition, and you would feel better yourself about having connected, something like that. But I also wanted to say, if you want to get together, I can give you my phone number and we could chat.
Yes, that sounds good, Rox. Yeah, you want to put your phone number in the chat?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Okay.
somebody,
Oh.
Kurt, if you could stay afterwards and show me where the hand is, that'd be helpful for me. I don't know where it is, but anyway, thank you, John.
Let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have cultivated from our time together. A lot of things we could have been doing on a Wednesday night, and we have come together to support each other and making good use of the life that we have while we have it, cultivating compassion, loving kindness, care towards ourselves and others. Some wisdom. Let us dedicate any and all merit and wisdom for the benefit of all beings. May all beings be free of suffering. May they find their liberation. May we be able to extract the essence of this life while we have it in ways that liberate us from the mental afflictions, the karma and klesha that imprison us. Wake up. Liberate so we can be of greatest benefit to all. For those who care to, you can join me in the dedication prayer. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increased forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.